We continue now at the top of Daf Bezam and Bezam Meseches Gittin. This is Gittin Daf Tube. The Gemara asked, what is the reason why the Mishnah says that a shliach has to say b'fanai nechta, fanai nechtam? He has to testify that he saw the get written in front of him and that he saw it signed in front of him. And Rabbah says, Lefi she'ein bekiyin l'shma. The reason is because the people of Medina Hayam, they're not experts in the halacha that a get needs to be written l'shma. It has to be written for the sake of this particular woman. And Rava says, Lefi she'ein edim mitzuyin l'kaimu. The reason why he has to say b'fanai nechta, fanai nechtam is because you don't have in Medina Hayam, you don't have witnesses around to certify the get should you need a certification. And the Gemara says, "My beinayu." What's the difference between Rab and Rava? The practical difference. Ika beinayu. There are the following differences. De'asiyuhu beitrei. Let's say you have a situation where two shluchim, two messengers are delivering the get. Inami, or another difference is mi Medina le Medina be'Eretz Yisrael. Let's say a get is being delivered from one province to another province in Eretz Yisrael. Inami, or another difference, ba'osa Medina. Let's say it's being delivered in the same province, within the same province, Medina Hayam, but that's happening overseas. That's happening outside of Eretz Yisrael. Rashi explains, Lefi she'ein bekiyin l'shma. The reason why we say b'fanai nechta, fanai nechtam is because in Medina Hayam, ein b'nei Medina Hayam b'nei Torah. The people of Medina Hayam are not b'nei Torah. Ve'in yodin shetzarach lichtov aget l'shem ha'isha. They don't know that again needs to be written for the sake of this particular woman. Ukraksiv v'chasav la sefer krisus la dahainu l'shma. We learn that from the word law in the pasuk. He writes for her the sefer krisus. That means to say that it has to be written l'shma. Hilkach therefore omer hashliach b'fanai nechtav u'b'fanai nechtam. The shliach says, before me it was written, before me it was signed. The memela shailinan lei im nichtav l'shma. Then once he says that, we're going to memela ask him, was it written l'shma? V'hu omer in, and he'll say yes. Well, the kamim mefarish my time alo etzrechu nami l'meimer l'shma. The Gemara later will explain if this is the case. What's the reason why we don't actually make him say the word l'shma? He should have to say b'fanai nechtav l'shma. Rava says a different reason. The reason why he says b'fanai nechtam is because you don't have Eidim around in Medina Hayam to certify the get. Ein shayaris mitzuyas misham lakan. The point is, you don't have caravans that are going from here to there, from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel to Medina Hayam. Shem yavu habal v'yar. Because let's say the husband does come and protest, lomar lo kasavdim, and he says I didn't write it. Shiu Eidim mitzuyan lahakar chasim asaidim. So now we're going to need witnesses who can recognize the signatures. V'aminu l'shliach. We're not going to have those Eidim in this case. And so therefore, instead, we trust the shliach to say b'fanai nechta, fanai nechtam, to essentially testify that it was not forged. Well, the Kamon Parach, and later on the Gemara will ask, Bein l'Rava, Bein l'Rabba, liboy trei, that according to both Rava and Rabba, why is it sufficient to believe one witness, that the shliach can say b'fanai nechtav or b'fanai nechtam? Why don't we require that there be two shluchim, two messengers? And the Gemara says, what's the nafka mina? So one nafka mina is the asyu beitrei. Let's say you have two messengers delivering the get. Ushneim nasu shluchim lagarsha. They're both appointed as shluchim for the divorce. V'haget yotzim mitachas yidei shneim. The get is coming from both of them. So l'Rabba boy l'meimer. According to Rabba, they still need to say b'fanai nechta, fanai nechtam. They need to certify that it was written properly l'shma. L'Rava lo boy l'meimer. Now, according to Rava, there's no need to say b'fanai nechta, fanai nechtam. Sharei shnayim heim, because they themselves are already two people. Those are two witnesses. V'im ya'arer baal. So if the husband protests, harei heim mitzuyin l'kaimo. So they're around and they can certify if need be. Inami, or another nafka mina mi Medina le Medina be'Eretz Yisrael. Let's say he's delivering a get from one province to another within Eretz Yisrael. Kagon Yehuda v'Galil. Let's say the territory of Yehuda and the territory of the Galil are two separate provinces. So right now we think that there are no caravans that go between these two Medinas. So l'Rabba delochayesh li'erura denema mezuyefu. Now, according to Rabba, he's not concerned that the husband will protest that it's forged. So lo boy l'meimer. So there's no need to say b'fanai nechta, fanai nechtam ho'elu v'kin kol b'nei Eretz Yisrael l'shma, because everyone in Eretz Yisrael knows about the halacha of l'shma. However, l'Rava boy l'meimer. But according to Rava, there's no travel over here. So they're gonna need to say, or he's gonna need to say b'fanai nechtav or b'fanai nechtam da ein shayaris mitzuyis, because you don't have the caravans, so you won't be able to find Eidim in a situation of protest. And finally, the last nafkamina, inami ba'osa Medina kagon me'ir le'ir b'Medina achas. Another nafkamina is, let's say you're within the same province, that's like from one city to another city in the same province, over Medina Hayam, and you're in Medina Hayam, l'Rabba boy l'meimer. Again, according to Rabba, the shliach will need to say b'fanai nechta, fanai nechtam da ein bekin l'shma, because again, they're not experts in the halacha of l'shma. L'Rava damar l'fishein v'chula, but according to Rava, who says the reason is because you won't be able to find witnesses, u'masnisan misham yerura deziyafu, and the Mishnah's reason is because the husband might protest that it's forged. Here you're all in the same Medina. It's easy to travel within the Medina, and the caravans are common, and therefore you'll be able to find witnesses should you need those witnesses. And the Gemara continues with Rabba, but according to Rabba, the Yomar Lefi Shein Bekiin Lishma. Rabba says again, the reason why the Shliach says B'fanei Nechtam is because they're not experts in Medinas Hayom and the halacha of Lishma, but Liboy Trey, we should require two. Midi Dehavia Kol Ed Yeshiva Torah, because that's the halacha in all testimonies. You need to have two witnesses. Why do we rely on one witness? And the Gemara answers, Eid Echad Nemun B'Isurin. This is a case of Isurin. It's a case of prohibition, and we have a general rule: one aid is believed when it comes to Isurin. But the Gemara still says, Eimor Damrinan Eid Echad Nemun B'Isurin Kagon Chaticha Savik Shel Chelav Savik Shel Shumin. I understand that we say that one aid is believed by Isurin. Let's say you have in front, let's say the person has in front of him a piece of meat. He doesn't know if it's Chelav or if it's Shumin, meaning he doesn't know if it's non-kosher fat or kosher fat. There's no presumption of Isser. You just need to find out whether it's kosher or not. There's no reason to assume that it's Isser, so we believe one witness. But over here, here we already have a presumption of Isser because she's a married woman. So that should be classified as something that has to do with Arayas. And the rule is anything that's related to Erva, you cannot have less than two witnesses. And to that, the Gemara answers, Rov B'ki and Hain, that really, the majority of people in Medinas Hayam really are experts in the halacha. There's no real need for this testimony. And even according to Rabbi Meir, who is generally concerned with the minority, but Stam Sifri Dedaini, Migmar Gemiri, but most scribes, they're learned in the halacha. So it's really not an issue. It was just a chumrah from the Rabbanan. They required some kind of testimony. V'hachin over here, that's why, again, the Gemara will go on to say, that's why we're lenient over here to rely on just the one shliach. And Rashi says, again, Midi Tehave Kol Ed Yeshiva Torah Kushyahi, that's part of the question over here, that we should require two, because all testimony requires two witnesses. Umeshani Eid Echad Nemun B'Yisurin. The Gemara answers, one witness is believed by Yisurin, Sharei Hamina Torah Kol Echad V'Yechad M'Yisrael Al Afrashas Truma V'Al Ashchita V'Al Nikra Agid V'Achelev. In all kinds of situations of kashrus, the Torah always believes each individual on his own. He's believed to say that he separated Truma, Shchita, that he did the Shchita properly, etc. The Lo Eschazik Yisur, but the Gemara said, but that's true, because there's no presumption of Yisur. Meaning there's no presumption that this particular chaticha is chaylev. But here, this woman has a presumption. She's starting off with the status of being a married woman. You can't learn from tevel and shchita. And there you'll say, oh, it's also it's chazik isur over there. The presumption is it starts off as tevel. It starts off, it's not kosher, you have to do shchita, but you can't learn from there, because there, he had the capability, it was within his control to fix the situation. And therefore he's believed to testify because he has control over that situation. But over here in this situation, by the Eishes Ish, by the married woman who's trying to say that she's divorced, she doesn't have control over that situation. It's not biyada, and there's a chazaka, so we should require two witnesses. V'ein davar erva, and something that has to do with erva, roi la'atiru b'pachos mishnayim. We can't allow that with less than two witnesses. It's not fit to allow. To yolaf davar mimamon, ksiv hacha kimatza bervas davar, uchsiv asam al pishnayim edem yakam davar. We learn how to gzer shava from monetary issues. It says over here, ervas davar, and it says by money. Al pishnayim edem, you need two edem, yakam davar, b'meseches sota. That's what we say in Meseches sota. And Rashi continues, Rov Yisrael B'kiyim Heim, most of Klal Yisrael are B'kiyim, they're experts, Ve'ein L'choshtan, and therefore there's no reason to suspect them, and so therefore in terms of Lishma, there's not really an issue. And even according to Rabbi Meir, who is concerned with the minority, Rabbi Meir says when it comes to Yibam, he's concerned not to do, he says don't do Chalitza or Yibam, because there's a concern, even though it's a minority concern, there's a concern maybe the Katan can't have children or the Katana can't have children, maybe there shouldn't be any Yibam in this particular situation. But even according to him, Stam Sofri Dedaini, Sofri Adayonim, Sherigil Lichtov, Kal Shtori Gittin, most scribes, Migmar Gemiri, they know the halacha. To get Isha boy Lishma, that to get Isha requires it has to be Lishma. V'Rabbanan hu ditzrich. When this whole thing is only a chumrah from the Rabbanan, L'meichash l'milsa misham deika dashkach kasav v'yomed, because they have a certain concern. Maybe it will turn out that the guy will find the get that was already written for somebody else. Kagon shenichtav l'shem echad mibnei Yirush shmo kishmo ushma kishma. Maybe he'll happen to find the get that was written for somebody who has the same name that he has, and his wife has, and the other person's wife is the same name as his wife. V'nimlach milagarish, and therefore he's going to end up using that, and so that is a concern, and that's why the Rabbanan said to say b'fanei nechtam, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph.